welcome to the InitiativeOne podcast, where leaders like you come to learn how to maximize your impact and to transform your life. We are so glad to have you as part of our audience today. I am privileged to share with you wisdom and words of insight from a friend and colleague of mine, Chris Wendt. Chris is based in Chicago. He is the principal of a company that is doing some amazing work in the IT space. He is the principal and vice president of Syscon, Inc. They've certainly spread their wings beyond this, but initially they created software operational systems to help construction companies operate on an efficient and effective basis. Chris is going to be sharing with us part of his story. They are a company that is growing exponentially, and he is what I call a savant in the digital space. He's also become a dear friend of mine. I have been coaching Chris now, Chris, 2 years? Going on 2 years?
About 2 years now.
And that's how we first met. And since then, we've taken your team through our transformational process and still are doing that. He's also joined our executive cohort that meets monthly. He is definitely part of the I1 family. And Chris, it's good to see you. Thank you for being willing to give of your time from your very busy schedule. Welcome to the InitiativeOne podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Well, Chris, let's just jump to it. And because I don't want to waste time, because you have a lot of nuggets to share, I'm going to probe today and see where this leads us. But let me ask you this: what are the major changes that you have made in your personal journey in terms of leadership shifts that have been critical in your success in dealing with younger leaders in the IT field?
There's been a lot of changes over the years. I feel like every few years I've practically reinvented myself as a leader. A few years ago, I was really focused on processes leadership and focused on getting all the processes dialed down. I kind of went with a streamlined, standardized, bulletproof was my slogan, and still is today. But really, it was focused on how do we automate mundane tasks, and how do we move from a procedure mindset to a guardrail mindset so there's room for creativity.
So what do you mean by a guardrail mindset, Chris?
Well, about 20 years ago in the IT space, whoever was on site made all the decisions. So if you're on site at a client, you just get to do whatever you want, and there's no collaboration, there's no anything else. Then 5-10 years ago, it was here's a paper procedure. You better follow every single checkbox and follow every single list. And now with some of the modern technologies and really just probably should have done this a long time ago, we set up some guardrails. This is what you must do. No questions. This is our rule. But there's still a lot of room for creativity in there as well. So you set up kind of the outline of where people have to, like driving the highway. You have guardrails. You need to make sure you stay between those guardrails, stay on the road, but you can still move in between the lanes.
So there's a lot of latitude for creativity and collaboration.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
that was a big change, and more recently, I think what's catapulted us more recently is moving to beyond the processes and to focusing on the people, and really, for me personally, trying to move into more of a mentor and less like a process-driven leader, really in the focusing on the other team members growing, which has been an amazing change for us, for myself personally, for the company.
So I'm hearing you talk about two major shifts. First of all, in dealing with your external client, your partner, that you, in order to have success in today's world, you have to move from being the guru to the partner, where they're participating in the input process, that you're able to, and your team is able to put their ego aside. Like in the old days, how dare you question me? I'm the one who knows what is going on in this field, and almost a built-in arrogance. And today, that's a recipe for disaster. How do you handle it when you're dealing with a really difficult client who actually thinks that they know more than you do, and you know that's not true, and you have to lead them through that process? I mean, how do you deal with those difficult partner clients?
Well, I think you kind of said it in the name of the partner. I think people don't want a vendor anymore, and they may not know it, but they don't want to go for either. They want, and what they need is a partner. That's how you're successful in business today. And if you don't have partners and you're just, hiring vendors or gophers, yes man companies, it's never going to be successful. And when we run into that ourselves, it's really a big focus on education. So collaborating with them, why do they think what they think? What are they really looking to achieve? And let's talk through the technical roadmap, or just whatever roadmap that they're proposing, where the downfalls might be, where the successes might be, and some alternatives and how those compare.
So we've all dealt with those difficult clients. And I've heard many leaders say, oh, if I upset them or if I offend them, if I'm really going to be honest with them, they may leave me, or they may not do business with me. I'm hearing you say the opposite. If you're going to have great, lasting, endearing, meaningful partner relationships, how would you respond to that?
I think that's so true. And if you say, if you take someone, husband and wife, they're partners, and if they're not honest between each other, it's not going to be successful. Honesty is a pillar of the partnership, whether you agree or not. Healthy disagreement is very appropriate in these relationships, internally and externally with clients. That healthy disagreement a lot of times is how you really come up with some of the best solutions.
So Chris, you are one of the things that's so unique about your company is that you really have almost an entirely virtual platform with your employees. I mean, you've got a whole group of employees and teammates that are in Argentina, I believe.
Yep.
You have people that are spread out in Arizona. You've got people in the Chicagoland area. And while they still come together from time to time, largely they're virtual. Am I understanding that?
Yeah, you're exactly right.
So how have you found, what are the keys in leading a virtual team? What are the keys? What are the challenges that you would share with our audience?
A virtual team is, it has a lot of benefits, and there are a totally different set of challenges. So it's a lot of the difference is the water cooler talk. So you're at the office, you walk by, you say hello in the morning. When you're virtual, if you're not conscious of that, it just never happens. So you could go 3 weeks and never talk to somebody who you would have walked by their office every day. So we really make a big point to have intentional conversations or intentional engagement with the whole team. We use a number of things to stay engaged with the team. We use Microsoft Teams for chat. And when we do that, we really try to have Teams is meant to be a conversational platform. So it's funny, but using like emojis and GIFs in Teams chats really makes it a more fun experience, a fun work environment. Like you would crack a joke with somebody in person, but if you're just on your messaging app, you're all formal all the time, that's not very fun. So having kind of that fun engagement in just those messages, it makes a surprising amount of difference. And then we try to make sure we stay engaged on day-to-day conversations too. So we do things like daily stand-ups, and each team is meeting for 15, 20 minutes each day on a call. And, you know, stand-ups are supposed to be like, I did this, this is what I'm doing tomorrow, next thing. We definitely let ours flex a little bit, and like, you know, and I went to the mall and I got a new, I don't know, lamp, and I'm excited about it. Then we talk about lamps for 20 minutes.
So you have entire conversations that really are not, quote, business related. They're really about how you doing. They're really about building friendships. And so we hear so many leaders say that you can't build a culture unless people are in the office. And I've seen, you are a company that has a magnificent culture, and I've seen you do it. What would you say to someone who's afraid to move to a hybrid environment, or they're afraid of the employees not doing their work, or that they're losing power because they're having to give in to the demands of the employees who want to stay home? How would you respond to that whole conversation?
I'd say if you're concerned about that, you may not have the right team in place anyway. You may not have the right culture. If you have the right culture, whether it's virtual or in person, it can be successful. And we actually, you know, our culture has changed a lot. Probably 3 or 4 years ago, we had a big culture change, and that's about when we went virtual too. But a lot of our team changed as well. But if you're worried about somebody not working when they're at home, then you should be worried about them not working when they're at the office.
Well, and you may also be worried, you should be worried that maybe you're not in the right place as a leader in today's culture. I mean, today, if you're in the control, a virtual environment would drive you crazy. I get that. But if you're into high trust and impact and results, I mean, our philosophy here at InitiativeOne is, look, you know what is expected out of you. You've got to do your job for the sake of all of your teammates, and we're not going to watch your work patterns. We're not going to watch your schedules, but we are going to look at results. And if the results are there, we don't care what your work pattern is. I mean, how would you respond to that?
I think that's 100% true. I'm a big fan of, you know, you do whatever it takes to get the job done. And that means that you need to take care of some personal things in life so that you can be focused, then go do it. And, you know, if you have somebody who's stuck at their desk all day and their kid's sick and needs to go to the doctor, they're either going to be distracted or miss the whole day. For when you're in a virtual environment, somebody, you know, probably last week I got a message, my kid's sick, I got to take him to the doctor, I'll be back in an hour. And, you know, we say, I hope they feel better. And they're able to have a better life, reduce stress in their life, and feel better, feel like there's a company that cares about them, because we do care. We care about their personal well-being, and feel like they have what they need to be successful in business and in life.
You know, I'm thinking of a couple of your teammates that are very skilled and very creative. And I mean, when they came to you, they almost resembled a puppy that had been whipped, and afraid, timid, hesitant, reactive. and was working with a boss who looked over their shoulder of everything, and if they went to the bathroom, they were afraid that they needed to let people know where they were going. It was what we call an adolescent environment, and yet I see those two people have thrived in your environment, and so it does impact high engagement. Would you agree that if you have a high trust environment and you set clear expectations and have clear measurement of what you're looking for, that it can actually lead to high engagement rather than low engagement? What's your experience been?
Yeah, we have a more engaged team now than we have in the entire history of the company. And a lot of that it's the trust, it's the clear expectations, and it's the flexibility for everyone to fill their own well in the way they need to, with a clear expectation of, go out, fill your own well, take care of yourself, and here's what you need to do to basically earn that personal time, earn that flexibility, earn that trust.
So you all are really a model of the kind of shifts in thinking and leading that are necessary and to deal with today's workforce. I also see that Syscon you are a company that thrives in dealing with adversity and in making deep changes. I mean, I have seen that when you all come up against adversity, you're able to make these monumental changes where some companies would wilt. They introduce whole new success eras for you. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I love change personally. I get excited about it. I want to change everything every day, all the time. This new technology came out yesterday. Let's roll it out to every single client. And that can be a little too much sometimes. And so Kathy and I work closely together on a lot of these things, and we kind of pare it down of what needs to change, what doesn't. I get excited about something. She brings me a little bit back more to reality, and we find out what that balance is. But if we don't embrace change, I believe that if any company doesn't embrace change, you become a dinosaur so fast. The rate of change is unbelievable right now in every industry. Even industries that haven't changed for hundreds of years are starting to have a notable change. And when these changes come up, when these adversity, these big problems come up, a big problem means that you have to take big action. And you can take that big action to reaffirm some 30-year-old idea that you had, or you can take the big action to embrace something new and really develop and grow and take yourself to the next level.
So when adversity comes, what we often teach, trust your history. And I think that you all have this track record of these major revolutionary changes in how you approach companies, the products that you offer, the experiences, the outcomes that your people have, because of how you grew during those periods of adversity and you made them work for you. I think that's a really powerful lesson for all of us.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this, Chris. When you're an owner and an executive of a company and you're passionate about it, you're going to have ups and downs. I mean, there's no such thing as linear growth. What would you describe as one of your most difficult periods in your company's life? How'd you get through it, and how does that impact you as a leader today?
Yeah, there was, plenty of ups and downs. I'd love to say we've never had a difficult problem. We've never had a difficult day, but that would be a lie. So a few years ago, we had Most of our clients use one accounting system, and that is the vast majority of them. A few years ago, that accounting system made this huge back-end change. And as a result of that change, we had to completely redo this mobile app that we had created about a year prior. We had to rewrite about 70 small programs that had been written over the 15 years prior. We had a cloud environment with many clients in there that had to be completely re-architected. And then we needed to individually upgrade every single client to this new backend. And this all needed to happen at the same time. And each of them was a very complicated project. It was any one of these would have been a big undertaking. And at the time, I didn't really feel like we had the team to delegate a lot of this to. So I actually took 3 of those 4 major projects on myself. And I dealt with it by white knuckling it. I worked about 100 to 120 hours a week for over a year. It was a challenge to say the least. And at the end of that year, we did get through it. We had some great products and everything was fairly successful on the delivered results of those specific projects. But my life was very impacted. I mean, I lost 30 pounds, then I gained 50 pounds. I barely slept. I was feeling like garbage all the time. I was super burned out. And because I didn't delegate any of those tasks and I didn't really collaborate even on many of those tasks, a lot of it was just me solo on a lot of these things. The end result is now we have these new major platforms, these new major projects, and I am the primary person that knows every single one of them and the only person that feels fully confident to support them. So after being totally burned out by white knuckling through this, it wasn't like, oh, now it's relief. It's now I'm the only one supporting this stuff.
Now you've got a company that's completely dependent upon you.
Yeah. It was brutal.
But that's not who you are as a company now. So what realization did you come up with? Because one of your strengths is you know the essence of the business of your organization. One of your weaknesses is you know the essence of the business of the organization. So you could justify yourself for staying in the weeds all day long. What caused that shift?
This actually moment was probably one of the biggest shifts of my entire career, because of how impactful that was to everything and how it was obviously a downward spiral if I were to continue this. And so it was during that process. I mean, one of the benefits is I was super in the weeds. And so I was able to, because I was so in the weeds, I was able to put together, that's where my streamlined, standardized, bulletproof saying came from. And so as I'm putting this stuff together, we're rethinking it. It's going to be streamlined, it's going to be standardized, and it's going to be bulletproof on every little thing. So I was able to put that into place. And part of that was the whole guardrail mentality. How do we put some fixed edges on our projects while allowing for creativity in the middle? And then the last part of that, and probably the most important, is I can't do anything alone. Anything I'm doing needs to be hopefully collaborative with the whole team. But even if it's something where I just need to make a decision and kind of, even if I'm powering through it, I want to at least have someone on the team with me along for the ride. So at the very least, they're learning about it and they're able to kind of see why I made the decisions, why this is set up this way, and they're able to grow. And by focusing on that collaborative team and bringing people along with me, it really allows us to grow the team. And then hopefully next time I won't have to redo all of these things myself. And next time at the end of redoing all these things, the team will be there to support it.
So I'm hearing you say that your big shifts have been from being the doer to the mentor, from the teller to the teacher. And
Absolutely.
Did that require a shift, a conscious decision to learn that I am going to learn to trust my people? Did that require a conscious decision to do that?
It did. And, I would say trust is even trusting them. You can trust them and still run into problems with delegating because you can trust them, but you'll always find something, right? So you trust them to complete this task, and you have somebody you trust them to complete 100 tasks. Somewhere in there, something's going to fall short. And so part of it was not just trusting them, but letting go of some of that perfectionism, making sure that you can let go of it in the right spots and still enforce it. There are certain things where they're non-optional, and you can't have a miss. But there's a lot where you can set it up so that people can try something themselves, fail, and have certain like safeguards in place to prevent that from actually causing any issue. So for like specific testing of certain processes, or after somebody completes a task, somebody else checks it every time. So it was a lot of letting go of that, giving people the room to fail, but also the blueprint to be successful.
You and I are, we've been coaching together for a long time, and we're so alike in that we both struggle with perfectionism, which is a challenge for both of us to delegate out, because if someone makes a mistake, we think that that's a reflection on us, and therefore we can't afford to not be seen as perfect. And it's really been cool to watch you fight through that. And you're a modern day example of how you can move through perfectionism and move towards excellence, where failure can actually becomes accelerated learning moments for your team. We talk about that the enemy of excellence is actually trying to be perfect. And I have appreciated the way that you've embraced yourself, and you've not been afraid to take a hard look at yourself as a catalyst for your growth, which many leaders are afraid to do. And so a lot of this outward growth has started because of the inward growth that has occurred in your life over the last 2 or 3 years. Would that be a fair statement?
Absolutely. I like looking inward. I thought, if I'm teaching somebody, when I'm done teaching them, they better be able to do it exactly like I can. They better be just as good, or they're not done learning. And, half of these platforms, I'm the one that personally designed them. And so like, how is anyone ever going to know it that well? And so it really felt like, you teach someone to do something, they did it 90% accurately, and that felt like absolute failure. And so then I would get frustrated with them. I'd get frustrated with myself. And then I would say, I'm not delegating anything else. They don't do it right. And that was just a self-fulfilling prophecy every time. And so really changing that from like, here's the exact expectation at the end. And it better be like this, or else you're not done learning, to that fail forward culture that you often talk about, and setting them up so that they can give it their full try. They know what the outcome is. They can take it all the way. Then we can go and set the culture where the expectations, we're going to look back, see what worked, what didn't work. And it's not insulting, and it's not an attack to say, here's what you missed. It's here's what you can do better next time.
Chris, I look back and when we first met, and you're not the easiest person to coach because you're so daggone smart, and it takes someone who there's not a whole lot of people that have the brain power that you have, and so that makes having people in your life to challenge you more difficult to find, and yet somehow we were able to hit it off after a period of feeling each other out. What have you found have been the keys for you, what would you say the role of InitiativeOne has been for you in the development and the increased success of you and Syscon? Any comments on that?
I think in my one-on-one coaching, my individual coaching, I think that part of my success of that process and growth during that process was that you're not the most technical person.
That's an understatement. I do know how to turn on a computer.
Well, A plus for that one. So
our
what
technical
I'm going
staff is listening to this and they're laughing their heads off.
So what I'm going through a problem with you, and I'm like, oh man, this, and I want to get into the details. I'm like, this was configured and the deployment failed because this misconfigured parameter. And you're like, I don't care about a single thing you're saying. Like that means nothing. Like, what is the leadership? Like, I might as well have been talking Chinese. So it forced me to bring it 100% to a growth conversation, to a people conversation, no matter how technical. And it's so tempting for me to get technical every time. Like, I know why they didn't check this box. It's because they did click this, in this order, and they missed that. But that doesn't matter. Now, when I was working with you, it wasn't even, I couldn't even talk about it if I wanted to. So that was a big thing for me. And then we started with the business leadership transformation for the whole team. And I think that one of the things is it really forced us to dedicate the whole time to nothing but a leadership growth transformation block of time every week with about 10 of us. And that focus time with someone who's leading it from outside and doesn't have any of the background or baggage, I should say, not background, but the baggage of like all the nuance. It allows us to focus on what the real learning is from something, not get lost in the weeds.
Chris, you offer so much encouragement for people. You have a company that is just, as I've said earlier, exploding in growth. You've got a team that loves each other. They love you. They trust you. It's one of the healthiest. You and your mom and your dad have created just this incredible organization that didn't happen overnight. And I want to lift you up as a modern day example of how you lead in today's environment and how you focus on your people. You have to focus on your processes, but you have learned if the people culture is not in place, the process culture is ultimately going to, at the very least, not fulfill full expectations. I appreciate you. I appreciate your leadership. For those of you who are watching this, if you want to scale your company and you've reached the level of complexity that you want automation and you want simplicity and you want to take a lot of the things that you struggle with and turn it into an automated process, Syscon is the company that can do that for you. And they're in a whole plethora of organizations, not just construction. And Chris, it has just been an honor to mentor you, to coach you, to see your growth, and to see the company that you're developing. It's been a real pleasure. Any closing words before we say goodbye to our audience?
I think that the last few years, if it's taught me anything, it's really just focusing on developing internal leaders. And your internal leaders aren't your VPs and your CEOs and all that stuff. Your internal leaders are anyone who's leading anything. And if you have a fry cook that's leading that order of fries, that focus of your internal team and growing them and giving them the flexibility to be creative and be collaborative that is really the biggest success to any industry, to any company, and has made just the world of difference for Syscon. And working with InitiativeOne on that leadership transformation training, I mean, we've really felt the difference that has catapulted us big time in that focus of developing our internal leaders.
Thank you, Chris. Good words, and it's been great to spend time with you. I want to say to our audience, if you've enjoyed this podcast and you'd like to hear more of it, hit that subscribe button. Also, we have a monthly complimentary think tank. We have several hundred people every month that join that. You can join that or register for our monthly think tanks by going to InitiativeOne, spell out O-N-E, InitiativeOne.com, and go in and register for our think tanks. Again, we have hundreds of people who watch that as our gift to them from all over the world. And we appreciate you joining in and listening to Chris and I today. And we welcome the opportunity to continue to build our relationship with you as part of our InitiativeOne family. Have a great day. Thank you again for taking time to listen today. Chris, thank you so much. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, buddy. Take care. Take care, you all.